So let's take it from the top. In talking to your two older brothers, obviously, the picture has been well painted of dad as a former age group swimmer and a swimmer at Michigan State who set the tone for a family of swimmers. And of course, Alec drops in the water first. And if my math is correct, you're 5 years younger than Alec.
That's correct.
And 3 years younger than Ian. So they are setting their tones as you're kind of figuring it out yourself. Tell me your memories of starting in a swimming family.
So, I didn't really want to swim at first. I wanted to do something completely different. That's kind of how I've always been, black sheep, if you will. So I started off playing soccer, basketball. I did all of that until I was about 11 years old. And then I realized that, if I really wanted to be included into the dinner time conversations and into this family, then I should probably consider joining the swim team. So, I started a lot later than both of my brothers did. I want to say Ian started when he was 6 and Alec was 8 years old. I didn't even start practicing. Of course, I knew how to swim growing up because it was just, in my family, in my blood. But, I didn't know how to swim all 4 strokes or do a dive or anything until I was 11. So I was kind of late in the game starting. But, in the grand scheme of things, I was really lucky to have not only a father, but 2 brothers who carved that path for me. So that really made it a lot easier for me, and going and watching them at swimming meets and understanding what swimming was all about, and just allowing them to, open up that path and just kind of follow in their footsteps and learn from their lessons, and ultimately just try to beat them. So I had 2 great positive examples of, what the high standard was of swimming. So if I could just keep up with my brothers or beat my brothers, then I was doing really good. So, luckily I came from a household where swimming was just a strong component of our family. So, again, that just allowed me to just follow in the footsteps of my brothers. So I owe a lot to them and my father for, presenting me with those opportunities, because a lot of opportunities presented themselves through my success. I was able to get a full scholarship at Ohio State University and travel internationally, and there's no way that I would have been able to do those things without swimming. So I'm really fortunate to come from a family that paved that way for me.
So obviously some of these things could be coincidental, and as you're coming to your own kind of understandings, but as I'm doing the math, an 11-year-old Cameron would have had a 16-year-old Alec as an older brother. And as I'm doing the math, that is precisely at the time that Alec goes through his breakthrough. He has a massive 1989 state meet, and he really breaks through in that 16, 17-year-old time. So precisely as you're realizing that maybe you want to swim a little bit more is at the exact time that Alec is really breaking through. Are those completely unrelated?
They could be, maybe not. Just being able to go to the state meets as a child. When I was that age, I didn't really care too much for the sport. In fact, I wasn't like in the stands watching every single event. I was running off doing my own thing. But, perhaps that did play a role in that coincidence and that timing. But before that, both of my brothers were strong age group swimmers, specifically Ian. Ian was already state champ in multiple events as an age group swimmer. So, Ian had already pretty well established himself as an age group swimmer. But as we all know, high school swimming is totally different from age group swimming. It's much more exciting, I think. So seeing all that excitement in the air could have, sparked an interest in my mind to say, hey, this looks a lot of fun. I better get into it now. So, I'm not left in the dust, trying to start something later.
So let's bring it to you there. And, as that time comes around 11 years old that you talked about, really swimming a little bit more, but at a time when you're playing a lot of other sports, is there a point Is there a specific race, a meet, a time in your life that you felt like was a personal breakthrough where you got a little bit more serious about it, or maybe realized that success was out there for you and not just for your brothers?
Yeah, it was, it probably wasn't until I was 13 or 14 that I realized I had a good amount of potential. I had gone to the state meet maybe as an 11 and 12-year-old swimmer, but, and maybe in the final, but was not one of the top swimmers for sure. So it wasn't until I was 13, 14 when I actually won an age group state meet that I realized, well, wow, I've got something here that I should probably pursue. And then, of course, that just motivated me to try to continue to stay on top. And being from the state of Michigan, we have, incredible depth of strong swimmers. So luckily for me, I had a lot of great competition as I was 11 through 14, basically leading up to high school. So I was motivated to beat some of those swimmers. And then, once I was 14, I realized that, wow, okay, high school, is upon me. And, especially as a freshman, it's not going to be easy if I want to be competitive because I'm competing against seniors, freshmen all the way through seniors versus just people within my age group. So I knew there was a lot of work that needed to be done after age group swimming and around that age going into high school if I wanted to be strong or at the top.
I'll have a question for you about one of your first high school state meets and or one of your first high school meets in just a second. But I want to ask you, as you're transitioning through here from 11 to 14 and you're finding yourself, tell me about who some of the most influential people were in your life, whether they be coaches at that time, fellow swimmers that you were swimming with that were inspiring you, maybe outside your family, but maybe it's just coaches. Who's kind of helping you in that transition and finding yourself?
I had some, I don't know if you remember Dan Hafner, but he was a really strong age group swimmer. I mean, he just destroyed everybody at that age. So I really looked up to him and he kind of set the standard. He was this much bigger kid at that age and just, crushed everybody. So for me, I wanted to be like him and, never thought that someday I would be able to beat that individual. But of course I had my brothers, I knew that my brothers were the strongest swimmers. And of course I just looked up to them naturally. If you even remove swimming, they were my best friends. I wanted to be like my brothers, Ian and Alec. Ian was more my playmate growing up because we were a little bit closer in age, but Alec, being 5 years older than me, didn't really want to have much to do with me at that age. But I really still looked up to him. He was an idol to me. I wanted to be just like him. So they kind of set that example for me personally and swimming. And then, being into basketball, of course, Michael Jordan, when I was that age was huge. So those were some of the athletes that really inspired me. I think it was, I think I was probably 14 and I was watching the 92 Olympics in Barcelona and being extremely inspired by Pablo Morales' comeback in the 100 fly, being a former world record holder and then not even making the Olympic team. I think it was in 88, he didn't even make the Olympic team. And so for him to take 3 years off of swimming and to come back, and I was a butterflyer at that age, I was a 100 butterflyer, so he was kind of my idol. And so, that really inspiring story of his mother passing away and then him deciding he wanted to come back for a year and train. And then to come back with all these great swimmers after a long hiatus and still, win a gold medal in the Olympic Games, which to me was extremely inspiring. So Pablo Morales, definitely, sparked that inspiration for me since I was a butterflyer for sure.
You and I are only separated by a couple of years in age, and that same Olympics, I was equally inspired by Melvin Stewart. I remember his all the features on him at that time, and it was a really cool time to be a young swimmer and to be inspired by a lot of great stories at that time. So you mentioned getting going in high school, and one of your first high school meets, I believe, would have come in December of '91. You would have swum at the Cereal Bowl relays in Battle Creek. Mm-hmm. And there was a race that happened at that meet that I told Ian about that is just one of my favorite Ian Mull story is where he jumped in about 20 to 25 yards behind in the 800 free relay. And I think you were on this relay as a freshman, and he anchored the relay. And, you know, I'd be guessing at the exact split, but I think he went like a 141 low to finish this relay and came back. And, you know, I told him that, you know, there were probably 20 people in the stands there that were there to cheer for Lansing Eastern that day. But by the time he hit his last turn, the whole place was there to cheer for Ian Mull and to watch him finish his comeback because it was so remarkable. Do you remember that race? And kind of, you know, that was just a little piece of his legend, you know, but like that was the type of swimmer he was his senior year.
Absolutely. I do remember that meet and, you know, kind of being overwhelmed, especially because I don't know if you remember the Cereal Bowl relays, like it was impossible to even get a warm up in. The pool was extremely packed. And yeah, so Ian being a senior and everyone in the state, you know, both high school and age group, knowing who Ian was as he was getting ready for Olympic trials as a senior, there was a huge spotlight on him. So again, you know, a big inspiration for me to follow. But I do remember, I think in the prelims that day, Ian swam first in the relay and he broke the pool record. And I think he went, you know, 141 high or something like that. And then, yeah, him swimming the anchor in the evening and all the excitement. I mean, it was just cool to see how many people were following and pushing for my older brother. So I was really proud to be able to, you know, witness him at dual meets and meets like the Cereal Bowl relays, but, you know, really being able to train with him. I didn't get to train with either of my brothers that much. I trained with Alec almost none. He was a lot older than me, as I mentioned. And I only got to train with Ian for, you know, 1 year. I was a freshman when he was a senior, as you mentioned. So, you know, his caliber was much higher than mine, but at least I got to see what his work ethic was like. And so, you know, that really pushed me to be a hard worker. I mean, no one worked harder than Ian Mull, you know, and even Bob Bowman will tell you that. I mean, Bob Bowman's worked with Michael Phelps, and, you know, you ask him and he will tell you Ian Mull is one of the best, hardest working swimmers that he's ever worked with. So for me to have that as my coming in as a freshman and seeing my brother going to Olympic trials and all those people support him was really inspiring to me. So
the significance of that year wasn't lost on Ian, though. You know, like I know you know this, but like he really found that to be, you know, a profound influence and kind of a passing of the baton, that he got his couple of years with Alec, and then he got even that 1 year with you. I think that meant a lot to him, you know, to kind of have that 1 year to show you a few of his tricks up close, and that you could carry that on and continue that. He specifically talked about that being a special year for him to have you in the fold.
yeah, it was, you know, that was the only year. I mean, as a freshman, I still qualified for the state meet in a couple individual events. I qualified in the 200 IM, and I think I got like 11th place maybe at the state meet, and qualified in the 100 butterfly. And I think, I know it was in the consolation finals there. I probably got like, I don't know, 8th or 9th in that event. But that was the only year that my high school swam a relay, or over the course of the 4 years that I was there. I only got to swim in a relay that 1 year. Luckily, we had Ian on the team, and gosh, I'll never forget at the state meet. It was at Michigan State, and Ian, we were in the consolation final, and we were not in the A final for the 200 medley relay. And Ian led off in a 23 split in the 50 backstroke, and so, you know, really put us ahead. That was really exciting, and, you know, yeah, just being able to have this role model and see. You know, Ian was always really supportive of me and taught me not only just techniques and tricks of the trade in swimming, but in life as well. So Ian's always been that person who really supported me and took the time to help nurture me and help me be a success and create someone who could be nearly as successful as he was. So he gave a lot back. He definitely was not a very, cocky individual. He was very modest and was not afraid to share his secrets with other individuals and especially his family. So yeah, Ian's done a lot for me.